today about is one of the most amazing turnaround stories in business history. Ford Motor Company, in the space of just 4 years, went from the brink of bankruptcy to being one of the most profitable automakers in the world. And it did it against the backdrop of the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. It did it as the rest of the American automobile industry collapsed around it. And it did it without taking a government bailout. It is truly an amazing story, and it's one that has a lot of important lessons for organizations of all sizes. It's a story that has real concrete lessons for companies in every industry. Press conference when Alan's hiring was announced, he was sitting on the stage with Bill Ford, and one of my colleagues from another paper said, "Mr. Mullally, what sort of car do you drive?" Without even pausing, he said, "I drive a Lexus because it's the best car in the world." Bill Ford reached over and grabbed the microphone away from him, and he said, "And it's being keyed in the parking lot as we speak." But Alan grabbed the microphone back, and he said, "It's okay. We're going to make Fords just as good." Now, this was a radical moment in the history of the American automobile industry because for the first time in decades, somebody in Detroit was telling the truth. Telling the truth not just to the general public, but to themselves. From day one, from literally his first hour on the job, Alan Mullally was taking an unflinching look at Ford's problems. He was saying, look, we are not competitive. We do not produce the best car in the world. Toyota does. But it's okay. See, that was the point too, is the other radical thing about this is he wasn't just being critical, he was offering people hope. He was saying it's okay because we'll make Fords just as good. The way that Alan made everyone work well and play well together was with a management system that he had developed at Boeing, and it's a really simple system. Basically, you instead of getting bogged down and blaming each other for who's responsible for the company's problems and never getting anything done, that everyone on his senior leadership team every week would come together for 2 hours. They'd each have 5 minutes to go over a set of slides showing their part of the company, how it was doing against the plan, and everything would be either red if there was a problem, yellow if there was a concern, or green if it was on plan. He explained this to them. He gave them some sample slides from Boeing. He said, this is how we're going to run Ford. The next week, they all came to the first meeting. They all went through their slides, and everything was green. So Alan said, well, maybe I didn't explain it well enough. So he said, okay, let's do this again. So green means everything's okay. Yellow means you have a concern. And red means there's a problem. Next week, everything was still green. Alan said, okay, maybe I'll speak slowly this time. He explained it again. The next week, everything was still green. He just stopped the meeting. He said, guys, we're about to lose $12.5 billion. Is there nothing that is not going right at this company? Or is this the plan? Is this green? Are we planning on going? The reason this plan was so simple was because Alan wanted everyone in the company, every employee, from the factory floor to the C-suite, to be able to understand it, to see how they could contribute to it, and to embrace it. And so he thought to himself, what could we do? What could we do to show the American people that Ford is different, that Ford gets it, that Ford understands that it made mistakes, and that it's been fixing them for the past couple of years. And if it wasn't for the fact that the entire economy just collapsed around us, we would be okay. So the next day, he gathered his executive team together at Ford World Headquarters in Dearborn, and he made one of the most audacious proposals any CEO has probably ever made. He said, guys, we still have some of that money left from that home improvement loan. What if we withdrew our request for a bailout? What if we told the American people, thanks, we appreciate your offer to help us, but we've got this. We're going to fix our problems ourselves. We're going to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
And Ford as a company that, was really the standout in Detroit, didn't take the bailout money, but you say they actually skirted closer to bankruptcy than we all think.
That's right. One of the things I learned, Melissa, while doing this book was just how close Ford got to bankruptcy. I mean, they reached the point where they stopped watering the plants inside the office building.
Stopped watering the plants?
Stopped watering the plants.
How much does it cost to water your plants, or did they just think they were going away so they didn't need them? What's the law?
It was about saving every penny. They even required a vice president's signature to order office supplies. And so, as General Motors and Chrysler were kind of going into a nosedive, people were focused on them and they didn't see how close Ford came. But they made the decision to save themselves and to risk doing it without a government bailout.
And do you give Alan Mulally credit for that?
Huge amount of credit. I mean, it was a really tough decision to make because Washington was there offering them money. And they knew that if they didn't take it then, they weren't going to get a check in 6 months. Congress had made it really clear that this was going to be a one-time thing.
Wow.
For all that success, does that make it so much harder for Ford to transition now?
Well, I've always said that the biggest test, the ultimate test of Mulally's leadership is this transition. Because I believe he has created a system that can continue to guarantee success at Ford.
How relevant it is today. Thank you very much.